Welcome to Crypto Clarified, Investing in the Truth, a podcast series where we come together each month to discuss the most captivating headlines and trends from the investing in crypto space. My name's Benjamin Dean. I'm director in WisdomTree's digital assets team. It's high summer at the moment, but that doesn't stop us from clarifying crypto. As everyone knows, we love clarifying crypto here. And today we have an extra special guest, Sandeep Nailwal, the co-founder of Polygon, a global Web3 infrastructure platform built on Ethereum, has joined us today. And in this episode, we're going to dive into Polygon's origins. We're going to listen to a little bit of what the team is building now. And then we're going to think a little bit about what the future looks like for this layer 2 scaling solution on Ethereum. Before I introduce Sandeep, and before we start the episode, some housekeeping. The usual shout out to James and Sam in compliance. To clarify, and before we begin, I need to state the following. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of WisdomTree and Polygon and are subject to change. Anything we present in this podcast is not intended to be relied upon as a forecast, research, nor as investment or tax advice. The information and opinions expressed in this podcast are not a recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any securities, and reliance upon them is the sole discretion of the listener. Please remember, past performance is no indication of future results. Right, with the housekeeping done, we can dive into the fun stuff here. Discussion with Sandeep. Now, we talk a lot on this podcast about building. During bull markets, you get a lot of noise. You get a lot of people turning up who are speculating, saying wild things, and generally distracting people from the space. On this podcast, we often say the most interesting time is during bear markets, and the most interesting people are those who are building. Sandeep's joining me today, and he and Polygon are most certainly builders. Sandeep, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me here. Thank you for the entire team for setting this up and having me here. Thank you.
So to kick things off, Sandeep, if you could just introduce yourself to the listeners, tell them a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in the crypto space, and then we can start talking a little bit about where the idea for Polygon came from.
Yeah, so I was born in India and was educated as a computer science engineer in India itself. And after that, I worked for 2 years as a software engineer. Then I did my master's, from a college which is now becoming the Indian Institute of Management, Mumbai. Actually, so I did. That too was also specialized in the technology side only. Then I worked for a very little time with Deloitte, and then at a senior role in a e-commerce division of a particular company. So, but I had done a lot of startups part time during my college days, and after that also I was always like there was always some sort of startup with me, and. Then in 2016, I completely first time I did my first full-time startup, and that did well for some time, but that was not scaling the way I would have liked, right? Because that became like that was a B2B business model, and I was I wanted to do the venture because I wanted to do a hyper scaling startup and which has some global level impact and things like that. So I started doing that for some time, but then I realized this is not scaling that good enough. So then I went into deep tech space. So initially started learning a bit of artificial intelligence, and this was like 2015 end or 16 early 2016, wherein the Bitcoin was in its another cycle in of 2015-16 of the 2016. I think it was due to the 2016 halving, and I stumbled onto that and I started reading about it, and I initially started with that book from Andreas Antonopoulos, which was Mastering Bitcoin. And few chapters into that book, I realized that this is like a path-breaking technology, and not even like two key things that happened to me. One was that first of all, I realized that this is not a technology only. This is kind of a revolution, because I had a fair bit of understanding and learning of the socio-economic issues, geopolitics, this that being during my MBA also. So, I could clearly see that, overall the way I think the Facebook's, the Cambridge Analytica issue had come out, and institutional trust overall, like in 2008, we had this recession. So one thing was very clear in my mind, that the institutional trust globally was, fading, and was like, and is today also is at all time low. Like, we don't want to trust any institution, whether it's government, whether it's our bank, or anybody else, right? So we, so that was the understanding, and I thought that, okay, this looks to be a next natural evolution of humanity, that, we go from these trustful organizations to, completely, trustless, or a way of organizing ourselves. So that was very interesting for me. And secondly, as a computer science engineer, when I saw Bitcoin, I saw that, at the end of the day, it's actually executing a very small computation. The computation is basically payment, but it is doing it in a decentralized setting. Instead of doing it on one particular server, it is doing it in a decentralized server, which is run by everyone and no one, to be honest. So that was a very startling thing for me. And I thought that, what if somebody could do complex business logic on this, like on this kind of network, right? And then lo and behold, I think 3-4 weeks from there, I stumbled onto Ethereum, and I was like, okay, this is the thing I was looking for, and this is exactly what I was looking for. And I feel that this can have a very big impact on many different parts of the businesses. And I also tweeted some time back that Web 3.0, I think of it as humanity 3.0, right? So humanity 1.0 being like, cavemen on the, and, there's empires where the kings ruled. Humanity 2.0 is this nation state kind of things, democracy, communism, all these kind of state systems. And humanity 3.0, where we move into these peer-to-peer trustless kind of institutions, which are controlled by everyone and no one, right? So that's how I got into blockchain. I shut down everything that I was doing. I was like, okay, this is where I dedicate my life to, and been falling in this rabbit hole since then.
Well, it's always nice to meet somebody else who can appreciate the kind of political and social implications of new technology. I mean, that's one of the things that personally, when I came across Bitcoin, it was like, oh, there's lots of current countries where the currency is being debased and there's no way for people to escape, but they have cell phones. And how disruptive would it be if you could put this digital money on cell phones? That would really change things. It's just, to have the foresight and see how the way people's lives can change from building new technology and putting it in their hands. It's all.
And this is such an interesting topic. I think if you and me go into this rabbit hole, we can technically use the next 2 hours just debating this only, right? So it's so amazing to discuss all of this.
Yeah, true. But maybe we leave that for another day, right? Because we've got so much else to talk about. So I remember when MATIC, Polygon, was listed on the initial exchange offering in Binance. I remember it distinctly. And it has just been quite a ride to see you folks building out the team, building out new technology over the last few years. If you were to give like kind of a synopsis in just a few sentences for listeners about what Polygon is and what you're trying to achieve, how about we kick off there and then we can go straight down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. So with Polygon, the idea was very simple, that we wanted to, I was also working on Ethereum. Once I got into the space, I initially developed on Ethereum and built some dApps as a freelance consultant, or kind of like, part-time partner kind of thing for some of the people who were trying to build apps in 2016. And my other co-founder, Jayanti, was also doing something like that. And he also realized that this is not scalable enough. So, at that time, Plasma was very hot. So he started working on Plasma. And, I was also looking for something like this that, which scales Ethereum. So we, obviously we kind of joined hands and started doing it. But the idea of Polygon was very simple, that how can we provide, or how can we increase the amount of computation available, right? Computation available to these decentralized businesses, which Ethereum started this whole revolution for these generic computations. And how can we increase the amount of computation that is, which is called scaling. Basically it's about increasing the amount of computation these decentralized applications can use. And the idea is that if you have this huge amount of computation available, right now it is not available. That's why it's very difficult for the apps to build these sustainable and better user experience or really good user experience applications to have like millions of users working on them. So once you have this computation, you will be able to bring masses into Web3, and that's our core mission. Like, before the show, you were also saying that Polygon's business development is really great and all that, because I think that's a part of the DNA. Everybody who's in the Polygon team or in the Polygon community knows that we have only one mission. The tech always gets commoditized in the long run, right? What matters is like the network effects, how big is the community, developer community and all that, and that's the goal of Polygon. The mission of Polygon is to enable or contribute to bringing 1 billion users into Web3. So that's the core mission. Yeah.
So it's been a few years now, and whenever you go and start a new business, it's tough. You've got to make sure everything works. You've got to find users, so on and so forth. At what stage along the journey did you kind of realize that it was taking off, that it was working? Was there like one particular moment that hit you and told you, oh, okay, we're onto something here?
To be honest, like, the way where we want to reach, it has not taken off even yet. Even though we are $10 billion valuation or top 15 projects or whatever in the world, top 12, 13, 14. But I don't think we have taken off really. Like, I think there are only two projects globally or two crypto assets who you can say that they have taken off or they have achieved a certain level of escape velocity is Bitcoin and Ethereum. I don't think anybody who's saying that they have achieved a particular level of product market fit. I don't think that. So I definitely don't consider even Polygon to have reached that place. But obviously, of course, we are one of the top projects in this space, and in that sense, like, I think we launched our mainnet in 2020, mid 2020, and this was the time when the DeFi summer was going on. And I think it was only until the US election, when the US election happened, we had around 100 apps on our platform, and one of the apps, Polymarket, which was a prediction market, went really viral. Like, for a few days it generated more revenue than what Uniswap was generating on Ethereum. So that was a time when Vitalik also spoke out first time, because we were building originally we had some people from outside of India, plus the three co-founders were also from India. So we were building from there, and we never really got any big VC investments and things like that. As you were saying, even Binance IEO, we had to, like, generally projects have to go through 2-3 months of DD. We had to go through like 8-10 months of DD and constantly proving ourselves that, okay, something like this coming out of this part of the world can be this big, right? So, or can be something legit. So it took us a lot of time to reach a particular place, and only in 2021 we started seeing a large number of applications, because once these first 100 applications were able to prove that they were able to attract the users, then it started going in a different direction. And January 2021, and today we are sitting in August. Today, these are some third-party reports, I think from Alchemy, that today we have around 37,000 applications on Polygon, right? So, and it's arguably now the Polygon POS chain is arguably the most adopted blockchain globally right now.
I tell you, when there were two moments that I realized, oh, there's something going on here. The first was the Aave integration. So for listeners who might not be familiar, Aave is a decentralized application. It does lending, kind of peer-to-peer lending almost, flash loans. And they were built on Ethereum to begin with. And over time have integrated additional kind of blockchain networks on there. And one day I saw Polygon MATIC added. And I'm like, I haven't heard that name in a while. And then I go and use it. And sure enough, the speed and cost of the transactions kind of order of magnitude faster and order of magnitude cheaper. And I was like, oh, this works. The next sign is the Sequoia India investment. $450 million US equivalent. It occurred last year, or was it earlier this year, Sandeep?
Yeah, it happened in last November, and it was actually not like a Sequoia India investment, but an overall like Sequoia global investment. And also we had some people from India, but Polygon was from the start like set up as a global company, and it is based out of the BVI and things like that. So once we started, like as you were saying, that once Aave happened, and then suddenly this Cambrian explosion of applications started happening. A lot of VCs, which never really, like before this round, this $475 million round, before that, we had raised only 650K from VCs. No VC invested in us. Only the IEO, we had like 5 million. Nobody touched Polygon because they thought that, this is not possible. These guys can't do it. And once this started happening and we were everywhere, every application you go, they ask them. And what happened is that with the VCs, like Sequoia led the round with some money, but there were like Tiger Global, there is SoftBank, right? There is Galaxy Digital, almost who's who of the ecosystem, Excel partners, everybody participated in that round. And this is something I also want to come back to, the spirit of Web3, that in Web3 we want to do the reverse. Like in Web2, what happens is that VCs will invest Series A, Series B, Series C, D, E, F, and then this goes to public, and the community becomes a part of the cap table in that sense, or the equity of the company, right? Whereas the Web3 thesis is, at a very small scale, you build something, it almost gets crowdfunded in some form, community contributes, whether in cash or in kind, and then it starts becoming bigger, and once it reaches a particular place, then VCs come in. That is the actual thesis of Web3, and I think Polygon is only one of the few companies or few kind of protocols who has been able to do something like this. And then when after that adoption, we went to the VCs. This is like, not many people know that VCs don't own any equity in Polygon or anything like that. They just bought tokens OTC, right? So no rights and everything. We keep hearing horror stories about VCs, like kind of taking over the company at a certain point and all that. Here it is nothing of that sort. So that is the thesis of Web3, that community. The other part is that community, when we launched our IEO, as he said, Polygon's valuation was 26 million. And when we raised our first VC round, we raised at between 8.8 billion to 10 billion. So the community was able to get at 26 million and VCs are getting at 10 billion, right? This is completely different, very different than what happens in Web2. And that's something I'm really proud of.
Yep, there's two elements there that we should kind of zoom in on. The first is, when I sit down with institutional investors and they say, like, how should I think about this space? Is Bitcoin digital gold? Is it a world computer? Is it an inflation hedge? I go, look, it's like early stage venture capital, except you get in from the start and it's mark to market every day from Genesis, hence partly the volatility, right? And that's exactly what you're saying. The VCs were the last ones in here, which is like the complete inverse if you think about the kind of the 90s tech boom, right? The complete inverse of usually who gets to capture value from the creation of new technology and the kind of utility it creates for people. The second one is, I sit down with a slide and I show the investors, I say, look, more venture capital went into this space in 2021 than the 6 previous years combined. Do you think it's going to go away? They go, no. And then they go, but aren't those VCs buying equity? Usually venture capitalists will take a slice of the company, right? Usually a pretty big slice. I say, well, how about, look at Polygon then. They just raised a $450 million round. And what did the VCs buy? The MATIC tokens, not the equity. It's totally different to the way traditional venture capital and the traditional ways that new companies are financed and develop.
Absolutely. That's why I feel that this is like not a technology. This is like a complete revolution in the sense.
Yep, it's a totally different way of raising funds, starting businesses, and funding new experiments and technology. Absolutely fascinating. One of the kind of milestones along the roadmap for Polygon, I noticed, was when there was an acquisition of Hermez. And in the past, there's no Bitcoin company, right? There's an Ethereum foundation, but they don't go out and acquire other projects or technologies. Could you shine a little bit of light on kind of the logic behind the Hermez acquisition and kind of what it means in the roadmap for Polygon going forward?
Yeah. So basically, see, as I said, that the technologies tend to get commoditized over time. The mission is what stays, and our mission is, how do we get 1 billion users into Web3, right? And when we started, we were building on this plasma technology, which became outdated very fast. And then people are like, okay, no, optimistic rollups are the next big thing, right? And when optimistic rollups also came in, because we had seen Plasma, we realized no, optimistic rollup doesn't look like, this is something which will be like very different than what happened with Plasma. Then zero knowledge rollups comes in and all that. So we always look at, because our mission is very clear, we always look at, let's say, 5 to 10 years beyond, like what will be happening in 10 years from now, not what is happening hot today. And at the end of the day, the goal, our mission will be fulfilled when we are able to provide technically infinite computation, the way like AWS, like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and all these are providing today. Like there's technically infinite computation available. As and when more apps are coming, they launch their applications on those cloud stores and all that, right? So in Web3 also, it should be like that. There should be infinite computation available, and apps should be able to choose what kind of trade-offs they have. So that's why Polygon adopted this approach. As we are a secondary layer or Ethereum scaling platform, we believe in Web3 that it will exist in two forms. We don't believe that a single layer one will be the end game, like the way a lot of layer ones try to do, that they have one layer one and they think all the computation of this world will come on this layer one. Like the moment you get into even 10% into the technology, you realize that that thesis is completely bogus. That cannot work at all, because technically not even the technology, the hardware, the physics don't allow that to like having everyone in one shared state, like the whole world's computation, payments, applications in one shared state. It's not going to happen. So our thesis is that you have this settlement layer, which is Ethereum, and on top of that you have this secondary layer scaling, where you can have hundreds of such first layer 2 chains, side chains, whatever you want to call them. And then beyond that also, maybe a fractal pattern, you can have layer 3s on top of them, which are like single app servers which are computing in very fast this thing, but still are able to prove everything back on a public blockchain, are still bounded by the socio-economic consensus and all that. That is where the zero knowledge technology comes in. And we believe that the zero knowledge technology, after 6-8 months of extensive research and plus our background in the space, we were very clear that this is the technology which can take Web3 to internet scale, the current internet scale. And that's why we went all in on Web3. So whatever competitive strength we had acquired from our existing solution with all this adoption, the token valuation, whatever, we applied that to almost go on a shopping spree in zero knowledge technology. And we kind of the top 2, 3, 4, 5 teams, we talked to all of them, and one top of 2 people did not come, so we acquired the next 3 or 4, and then ourselves became the powerhouse of zero knowledge technology, which included it started with Hermez, but then it was Mir protocol, which is now Polygon Zero, then Maiden, which is basically the Facebook's zero knowledge team, right? So which is amazing team, the amount of technological work that Facebook had done internally, those teams are now splitting out into different things, but it's absolutely phenomenal. The amount of talent they were able to get in and all that, absolutely phenomenal. But so that is Maiden. And then the 4th project that we have is with Ernst & Young's Nightfall, which is again a zero knowledge privacy enterprise product. So that was the whole thesis about this, that go all in on ZK, because this is where this is what will bring or will have the capability to bring 1 billion users into Web3.
So if listeners want to delve into this topic more, it's currently one of the big question marks in the space, and it's around scaling Ethereum. What's the best way to do it, inverted commas? Sandeep and Polygon say zero knowledge proofs, and it's certainly one way. Other folks might say optimistic rollups. They've got pros and cons between them. You can go and punch that into the Google machine, and it'll give you lots of nice explainers about the differences between the two. But it's all with the purpose of scaling Ethereum in the absence of...
One thing I want to say, Ben, over there is that the pros and cons between optimistic rollups and zero knowledge rollups are actually not there. They are the only pros and only cons in ZK side is it's still early. Nobody, even the core optimistic rollups teams, they fully agree that zero knowledge technology is the way to go, but they say that the technology is not ready yet, right? And that is what everybody got surprised last month when we launched our ZK EVM, when we open sourced the code, because the 2-3 teams, our 3-4 teams in the last 6 to 12 months, whatever, because ZK technology is also having its kind of that hockey stick growth. Like, in terms of the technology, like everybody thought that this is going to take 2 years, but that took 6 months because so much talent came into this and all that. And today, I think we are fairly at that place where the technology that we are building is pound for pound equivalent to, in terms of performance, is equivalent to optimistic rollups. It's much better in every other sense. And in next 6 months, it will easily surpass optimistic rollups. Optimistic rollups is actually, there is no hardcore technology in optimistic rollups, to be honest. It's basically you are saying that, okay, you will have a chain here and you will take everything that the chain, all the transactions in this chain, you will minify them and you will post them on Ethereum also. And you will also put the proof. And then if something goes wrong, that's why they are called optimistic. If something goes wrong, you will have a 7-day period to challenge them. That's why you have the challenge period or 7-day withdrawal period, because that's the time you need to, somebody should be able to challenge. But otherwise, there is no technological breakthrough on that, to be honest. So, and even optimistic rollups proponents believe that zero knowledge technology are better. Whether we have reached the place where they can be mass available or not is what they question. In our minds, I think we are there. In next 1 or 2 months, you're going to have a public mainnet of a zero knowledge ZK EVM.
Nice. Well, thank you for that clarification. Indeed, the podcast is called Crypto Clarified. We love clarifying here. So you're right on brand there in that regard. I know we're coming up on time, but there's kind of 2 last questions I'd like to get at. One of them has to do with the Ethereum merge to proof of stake, which is supposed to happen in a few weeks. Polygon being kind of relying on the base layer Ethereum. I imagine that's on your mind. How do you think about that? Do you have any concerns, or do you think everything's going to go nice and smooth?
So the amount of testing that the Ethereum core devs have done is absolutely phenomenal. And after having seen it on multiple testnets, I don't feel like, I feel 99% it's there, but it's again like, you have to say that this is probably one of the most complicated software updates ever in the history of humankind. So, and that too in this decentralized setting, so much can go wrong. So only if you say risk is if something, the merge doesn't go through, then what happens? People will roll back and things like that. But all those things are also built in. So the merge is happening. There is no risk on the merge. Whether it will happen in first attempt or second attempt, that somebody can debate. But I am saying that even the first attempt, 99.99% we are there. But nobody can say nobody can predict the future. And all those rollbacks and all that are also built in. For any kind of application that is built on Ethereum or the layer 2 chains, if you see it in a way, those chains are also applications built on top of Ethereum. Those applications are in the business of providing chains, right? So as far as the way the merge is built is that there is going to be no impact on any application or protocol or infrastructure built on top of Ethereum of the merge. It is not going to have any impact on the gas fees. So it's not like this merge is going to increase the scalability of Ethereum. No, the chain is going to have exact same gas fees, the same amount of computation power. Nothing changes. So this is kind of misnomer because people start thinking that this is ETH 2.0. No, ETH 2.0 is probably 3 to 5 years ago away, at least, even if it is going to happen. Like many people in Ethereum, even Vitalik have said that, we probably don't need that. We just need a strong base layer and then layer 2s around it. So we don't have that much concern around, around merge. We feel that, it's going to be fairly smooth.
Yeah, the ETH 2.0 kind of tagline is a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? Because it's kind of a gradual process. There's no real destination per se.
Correct.
Well, that's good. Yeah, indeed. Clarifying that is also helpful so people can know how to think through this clearly. Last question then, because we're coming up on time. Looking out ahead, I know that there's a lot that's got to keep your attention. There's probably a lot of things that scare you and a lot of things that you're looking forward to. If you were to say to the listeners one thing that they should be keeping an extra close eye on, either because it interests you or because it scares the hell out of you, what would it be?
In the whole crypto space, I think that the crypto space, we have a lot of product market fits. Like it's not like 2017 where everything was vaporware. In 2017, definitely everything was vaporware. In today's scenario, 5 years hence, I think we have a lot of products, lot of things, DeFi, NFTs, gaming. Many of the use cases have actually some level of product market fit. So there is not that much of a scare. Only thing that scares me right now is this overall macro market scenario, right? I think that's the only thing that I am most scared about. That if, let's say, right now the inflation in US seems to be downward trending, like only 1 month, although we have seen, and I hope that keeps happening. Otherwise, they have to take drastic steps, which can take the whole world into recession. That's the only risk I see for the industry. And not only the risk that I feel that this will disrupt the industry, it will just delay the mass adoption of the industry, because the amount of capital that is coming in, experimentation that is happening, will slow down a bit. But it's going to happen sooner or later. So if you are a crypto bull, and you have 10 to 20 years time frame in your mind, there's nothing for you to worry about. But yeah, for next 1 to 2 years, it's going to be bumpy.
Indeed. Well, with that, I think we're out of time. Sandeep, sir, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you again for taking the time. You'll have to come back so that we can nerd out about the social and economic and political consequences of new technology.
Yes, absolutely. Let's plan that sometime. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you again. I hope all the listeners have found today's podcast useful and informative. As a reminder, if you'd like us to cover any specific topics in the future, or if you'd like more information, please email cryptoclarified@wisdomtree.com. You can hit me up at Twitter @Benjamin Dean. Sandeep, where can people find you on the internets?
On Twitter only, @Sandeep Nailwal, my full name. Exact full name. Don't add anything or remove anything. Otherwise, you will end up following some scammer who will ask you money immediately. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yeah, we don't want any of that. No, it's not. All right. Well, thank you again, Sandeep. Thank you to all the listeners for joining us today. And I hope you will have a great rest of the summer if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. We'll see you next time. Ciao.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah.